Now, let's say somebody who you know tells you something offensive to you, right? Or something that you might not like. In a natural tendency for all of us is to sort of feel threatened or feel triggered and wants to say something back or think about that person in a certain way. And I'm making this conversation a little bit general, but I think it's an important thing that a lot of people go through. And the goal of this video is for me to share my point of view of how I actually regulate and manage based on the understanding that I have about opinions and understanding that I have about how empathy works, understanding that I have about what the truth of interaction is. And my hope is that that can alleviate whatever that you might have experienced or you're going to experience. So one of the things that has changed my life is what I learned from Don Miguel Ruiz, and he's a known person as an author of Full Agreement. But one of the things that I learned the most, which there's the layers and the depth that I sort of discover as I was exploring myself and his teaching, is that whatever somebody says about you or in that conversation has zero to do with you. And it's a beautiful idea because it describes that each and every person is living in the model of their world. So the worldview and the perspective that they are actually operating as a default state. And then when you become aware of that operation of the perspective of the default state can be chosen, yeah, can be altered. But let's go back to the example. Let's say somebody tells you something, yeah, and you feel something, and because you know that that person is talking to you or you're talking with that person, you immediately feel like this person is either judging you or getting triggered or telling something to you, and you feel something about it, and you kind of feel that, the resistance or energetic, that happens automatically because we have this survival mechanism inside. Now, what we want to do immediately is to being able to see that feeling that arises inside of you and then actually separate that feeling and also that energy that's coming from outside, and then to be able to see whatever the person says to you as a reflection of that person, not a reflection or extension of who you are. Because let's say let's say you did something and that person points out to you about what you did, but even that has zero to do with you because whatever that person tells you is based on how that person sees you in that person's mind. Does that make sense? I'm going to puzzle you a little bit. So let's say if let's kind of switch a little bit the scenario. Let's say if I tell you something about you, right? I cannot tell anything about you based on how you feel and how you see yourself, because the moment you tell me about you, I'm filtering with my perception and perspective and my model of the world, how I choose to see you. And if I share something to you based on that perspective, I'm saying that based on how I see you in my mind, but not who you are. Does that make sense? This is so powerful because when we understand that each and every mind, you and I and everybody, is living in this sort of bubble of our own mind, and then we have this called empathy. So we kind of empathize what others say, and we want to connect, we want to be associated, we want to be attached to somebody to sustain the sense of self. That's what ego does, right? You are somebody because somebody else exists. And when somebody blames you or say something bad about your ego gets threatened because now you don't have your identity and space for you to be somebody in that context. Yeah. So that's the power of empathy. But then we don't want that empathy to use us. So we want to become aware of the survival mind, that the emotion and feeling that arises within us. We want to be aware of our own empathic nature of the brain and identity. And we want to be aware of the person's voice and whatever the person is saying, and to be able to separate all of those to understand what's happening in the moment. Yeah. Otherwise, you will be getting triggered based on whoever the person's model of the world is saying, which is has nothing to do with you, but has everything to do with that person's business. And you don't want to get triggered by somebody's projection, right? Because whatever the person tells you is the projection of the the worthiness that that person has, the self-image, the concept of self, that person's opinion, and all that, right? So we want to neutralize all of those and see what arises from there, right? We don't need to judge that person for the sake of that person judging you, because that person is judging you because that's all the person know how to do in that moment. He is doing the best at the ability that they can at that moment. That's why that experience arises in that moment. So then the awareness that we want to have is to understand that mechanism and understand that that is the heart of what's happening, and how do we want to who do we want to be in that moment, because whatever that we express end up self-defining who we are in that moment, right? So if you're an aware person, if you are somebody who doesn't get influenced by others' opinion, whatever the identity that you are practicing yourself to be. And it's interesting. Identity is something that we want to be practicing. It's an forever evolving energetics that we are actually constructing and reconstructing all the time. And to experience something and maybe make a mistake and then reconstructing. And we want to be clear with who we are wanting to be and practice being that desired version of us. And then I think that the awareness of this survival part of us and the empathic aspect of us, and also to understand that every single individual in this world is speaking based on that bubble that they're living in, life becomes much, much easier, because you will learn yourself detaching yourself from that energetics and be able to respond and execute and express yourself in a way that is true for you, instead of letting that false part of you react to the other person's projection of the world. Yeah, so that was a little deep. Let me know if anything that I say spoke to you. Any insights, share below. And if you have any question, I will respond. So that is it. I'll see you in the next video.